Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first Nostalgia Train Book Club live discussion. And today we are discussing, wait, I have it, Eragon. So since this is our first discussion, I'm not sure how it's going to go. We're just kind of winging it here. This is just going to be kind of casual, silly fun. And the whole point of the book club is to reread popular YA and middle grade books from our youth and dissect them as writers, see why they were popular, and discuss some of the literary elements. I'm Violet. My channel's Writing Violet. I do vlogs and craft book reviews and random things, and I will let my co-hosts introduce themselves. Crystal?
Like, oh yeah, I'm next, aren't I? I'm Crystal. I write modern paranormal fantasy novels. I have never finished Eragon. I always make it about halfway and then I quit. My channel is Crystal's Cluster, where I make writing content, D&D content, and gaming content. I almost forgot what that was. That's a bit of a hot mess. Hi.
My name is Marta and I make art and writing related content primarily, and I write fantasy. And I had read Eragon before when I was, I think, 13, 14, and I hadn't read it since, so I was very excited to jump into it again.
I'm Danny. My channel is somberhoney, where I post videos about reading, writing, and a bunch of other stuff. And I primarily write either fantasy or poetry, but I do dabble in a lot of other things. And I first read Eragon for the first time last year, so it's a very recent reread, but I watched the movie a whole lot as a kid. It was one of my favorites.
I actually forgot to say, I never read it as a kid, and I write YA fantasy and YA rom-coms. So let's see who we have in chat really quick. Anya. Hello, I know Anya picked it up. I don't know if she finished it. Hi, Michael. I'm so excited to climb aboard the nostalgia train, now sitting by the platform with my bookish, bright, big-hearted friends. I call dibs on the window seat. Fine by me. Oh, hi, Caitlin. And hi, Sasha. I know Sasha had also picked it up, but I don't know if she's gone through it either. I mean, she a thick one.
Yeah.
And hey, Devesha.
Yay.
So a little bit about, I wanted to just talk about the background of this book because it has sort of an interesting origin. The fact that Christoper Paolini was only 15 when he wrote this. So I read on Wikipedia that he had been homeschooled and graduated when he was 15 and then didn't want to go to college as a 15-year-old, so took a year off to write a book. And then it took another year to edit it, and then his parents decided to self-publish it. Then he did the promo, and then a year later, after it was self-published, it was traditionally published. And then became a best-selling children's book of that year, 2003, and also in 2005 was in the top bestsellers for children's books. So it's an interesting story, an origin story. Like, that's a really cool story of a teenager writing a book like that and it being so successful, going from indie to traditional. I don't know, I kind of found that a really cool fact about this guy. I feel like there was more I wanted to say. Do you guys have anything you want to say about what you thought about this before getting into it? Or, I don't know, a little bit about the reputation about this, because I had heard several things about it, not having read it myself. Just the main thing I heard about it was kind of, I don't know, generic and poorly written. And I don't necessarily agree with all of those things now having read it myself. I can see about some of the plot stuff, and we'll get into that now just here. But any starting thoughts before we jump into our discussion topics? No? That's fine. Oh, and I also wanted to say, yeah, Katie was supposed to be here, but she couldn't make it last minute, so that's not that everybody's wondering where she is. The train ran over me. I fell behind in my reading, so basically I'm taking Chum in here to find out what to expect. Okay, so first of all, spoilers. Second of all, if anybody's interested in the Discord, I should have all the links below, also for my co-hosts. So for our first discussion topic is going to be plot, because I definitely heard this called, whoa, hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I felt like it cut out for a minute there. Maybe it was just my internet. What was I talking about? The hero's journey, and I heard this was very Tolkien-esque and basically Star Wars fantasy version with dragons. And I don't know if we want to discuss any of the sort of story beats or pacing or any of those plot-related topics. Do you guys have any thoughts? Are you? I don't know. I don't want to get to be like a monologuing here.
I definitely see the Tolkien influence. Like, there's definitely parts where, cause I've read part of Lord of the Rings, and there are very, very powerful connections. I'm like, yep, nope. This kid read at least Lord of the Rings, definitely.
Yeah, it like for the most part, it's just generic fantasy vibes, like stuff you would find in any fantasy book. But there are some places where it's like, yeah, that was very clearly lifted from like more popular things, like the Urgles and the orcs, and like a couple of other moments where like, yeah, I've definitely seen that exact moment before.
It's like, oh wait, well, the rebels?
The elven language and the elven stuff that was put in there, I was like, oh, that's so Tolkien. Like, what else was I going to say? Oh, I was saying before, I had double checked to see when this was published versus when the movie adaptation of Fellowship of the Ring came out, because I thought, oh, maybe he just saw that movie, but it wouldn't have worked timeline-wise, because it was self-published in 2002 and Lord of the Rings came out in 2001, so he would have already had the first draft written by that time, but obviously the book had been out and before that. So, but Star Wars Episode 1 came out in 1999, and I know Star Wars kind of also had themes and plot lineup. Again, just the basic hero's journey story in general.
I've heard many jokes made about rebels.
Yeah, the Varden very much giving me Rebel Alliance vibes. I definitely got those vibes. How did you guys feel about the pacing? Because that's something that I had a big issues with. Because this is a big book, and it felt like the first half was very slowly paced, and then the last section was just fast till the end.
I'm definitely experiencing the similar things. Like, I've tried to give myself time to like read certain chunks, and there's a certain spot in the beginning to middle where it's like, this is the biggest slog that I've ever gone through. It's definitely paced very strangely.
Yeah, I also found the first 100, 200 pages kind of hard to get through, but then after that it just like got really, really interesting really fast. So
it didn't really feel well balanced to me. Like the whole first half of it is like 90% talking and traveling and like 10% action, and then with the second half it like flips. So I feel like if things were split up a little bit better that way, the pacing would have been fixed easily.
Yeah, I thought about the same thing. You know, if I had been like reading this as a beta reader, I would have really gave that note about, it seemed like a lot of it was like sort of magic info dump, training montage, travel, repeat.
Yes.
Like it seemed like it kind of would do that again over and over, and I was like, okay, here's our training montage and our magic explanation, and then a little bit later it would be again magic explanation, training montage again. I was like, okay, we're still doing this. Okay. I thought we were past that, but
yeah, the beginning is definitely a little on the repetitive side.
Yeah, the other thing about the beginning is it seemed like a very long setup, and just like as a writer, I'm always thinking like the desire, the misbelief, the stakes, and I had a very hard time at the beginning, like what really were Eragon's wants and needs and desires. It didn't seem like, I don't know, I couldn't really firmly understand in the beginning what he was really wanting. It just kind of seemed like, oh, he stumbled upon, the stone, and I don't know, it didn't seem like a lot of stakes to it.
I feel like that's a problem throughout the book, though, rather than just at the beginning. I felt like his motivations weren't really very strong for most of the book. If not all of it, really.
It's like, it's very much, this is my life now.
Like, you get the conversation where he first learns about the Varden, and he's just like, well, I don't know what I want to do. And then 2 chapters later, he's like, I'm going to give my life fighting against evil. Like, it's not very, like, compelling or, like, believable to me.
Yeah.
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 Also, even before that, when he goes on that revenge quest, it doesn't actually feel like he wants the revenge. He's just doing it for lack of something better to do,
Yeah.
which I found kind of weird. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the motivations were definitely not clear. Kind of off topic, I writerly did an interview with Christoper Paolini where he tells the story of how Eragon was published in depth. A long but good watch if you have time. Yeah, I was planning to watch a bunch of these because I saw that he has a YouTube channel I found when I was doing research. So,
Neat.
yeah, I did not know that. Oh, Anya hasn't finished yet. Might finish tomorrow. Well, there are spoilers, Anya, so. I'm trying to think of what other plot things I wanted to talk about, just because I felt like there would be more. Or should we jump into what was the next fantasy tropes? We could also jump into that conversation if we wanted to. How are you guys feeling?
Everyone's kind of like,
I'm happy with either.
Oh, Anya.
unfortunately, I don't.
So
have
the
too
pace
much
gets
on it.
better towards the end. I might even finish it then. Yeah, I like binged the last, I think, 6 chapters in one sitting. Like, there was a certain point where I was just in it at that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say the last like 5 or 6 chapters are like very well done.
Yeah, then it really picks up, which made it seem very sort of juxtaposed to the rest of the book, where I was like, oh, I wish that some of this stuff had been in it before. I also thought it was kind of weird. Again, spoilers, guys. I was surprised about Brahm's death. I knew he was going to die. I didn't think he was going to die that early in the story. And also, Murtagh, I was surprised he wasn't introduced earlier, because he was introduced quite late in the story. Just because on my cover I have all the characters, the pictures of the movie. I was like, where are all these people? Where are they showing up? I feel the same about Eragon's motivations.
Which, you know, it's kind of funny because like most especially fantasy books, it's like, okay, the setup goes up here, and then you have all the climax and all that fun stuff happening, and then you have the sagging middle syndrome, and it doesn't feel too much with Eragon. It's like everything's kind of wobbling, and then it picks up, which doesn't make sense.
Maybe I want to watch that iWriterly video, because I know I talked about this when we did the reading streams. I'm very curious what the editing process was. Like, did he just self-edit this? Did this go through different edits when it was traditionally published? When it was self-published, did he hire an outside editor? I'm very curious about that side of this, because, yeah, there was definitely things in here I felt like could have been fixed during edits, and I also wondered how much was fixed, because, I mean, all things considered, this is really impressive for the fact that he was a teenager when he wrote this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So there's things in here I was like, whoa, I'm like blown away at some points. So.
You know, there's definitely a few points where it's like, it's like, I'm talking about this one thing, and then it goes right on to the next one without any indication. You're like, wait, we're over here now? What?
I only found out now that the main character's name is in fact Eragon. Yeah, I didn't know that before I picked up the book. I felt really stupid. I thought that was the dragon's name. My bad. I didn't know anything about this going into it.
Can we talk about that name for a second though? Because like it's just a dragon with the D changed to an E. And that's just I can't get past that.
I mean, okay, but this is when we're talking about like popularity. I think there's something to it. It's a catchy name. It fits the genre. You know what the book is about. I don't know. I think there's something to it, like marketing wise. If you could have a strong one-word title, I mean, I feel like as a writer, I'm envious of people who can have one-word titles, because now it seems like all the good single words are taken. If I remember correctly, Eragon was published through the Lives of the Hello, Anna. Danny, I never thought of his name like that before. My mind is kind of blown.
A little bit. I'm literally sitting there going, wait a second. Huh.
But that does kind of seem like a teenager thing. Like, I know when I was a teenager, I'd be like, okay, how can we make this cool? Like, I want to write something about Pokemon, but I can't call it Pokemon. That was me as a kid.
It's like you have like the one character where it's like, okay, I know this character is like a bad guy. Okay, what are all the words that define like bad? And then you start trying like, okay, so malicious, and then you start playing with vowels and syllables and stuff. To see. I know I did that when I was in high school. It's a problem.
Oh yeah, well, I'm pretty sure we can all say that Christoper Paolini has a very used thesaurus somewhere.
I mean,
That boy definitely has a thesaurus. We'll get to language. Should we go
Okay.
on to the next category, which is fantasy tropes, archetypes, and cliches?
Oh, so many.
Yeah, really, there's really a lot.
oh boy.
I don't even know where to start with this one. I took notes, but I think the basic thing to start with is just the sort of medieval Europe and the westernized dragons. I thought we could go into sort of dragons and dragon cliches as well. One thing that I loved, a trope that was included, was the sort of telepathy with the dragon. I'm definitely trash for telepathy in books.
I love
And-
the telepathy.
I loved when him and Saphira would have conversations in front of Brahm that he couldn't hear. Those were some of my favorite parts of the book. Were those moments. So in general, I didn't really connect with Saphira that much again until the end half. Like a lot of times I think I even wrote up until like in my chapter notes, like, okay, it's chapter 36, and I'm still not getting that connection. Like when I pick up a book about a dragon, especially like the original version with the dragon on the cover, like I'm expecting like a bond with this dragon as well as the reader, and I didn't really get that. My expectations weren't met in that way. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
I feel the same way. It's like, here's the boy, here's his dragon, they go on adventures.
It felt a little like Saphira's character was kind of confused because, like, they talk a lot about how she's wise and, like, very dragon tropes like that, but then they also try to shoehorn comments about how she's just hatched, like, a few months ago and she's really young for a dragon and, like, all this stuff. And, like, okay, so it wasn't very, like, concrete about how Saphira was supposed to act.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed inconsistent with some of the things with her. Like, because didn't they say, oh, dragons are actually far superior to human beings? And also, like, her strength. It was like, oh, sometimes I can carry this much and sometimes I can't. And I don't know, it seemed a little bit like plot convenience wishy-washy
Yeah.
when it came to Saphira. One thing I wrote is I thought it was very anticlimactic, her hatching. It was kind of like, oh, it's not a rock, it's an egg. Like, I don't know, like, I was like really expecting like, oh, he found the stone, he's calling it a stone, and then, oh, it's a dragon, okay. Like, I don't know, I was really expecting something more.
It happened like that fast.
Yeah, and it just like Eragon accepted it immediately.
Yeah, there was no panic there, and like, I don't know about you, but if I had what I thought was a rock and a dragon came out of it, I'd be panicking.
Especially, it's like you hear the stories from Brahm about dragons and stuff because he makes a note. It's like, oh yeah, no, I love hearing Brahn's stories because they're so awesome. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, here's this dragon. All the lore you've heard that you're now facing that, and you're not afraid. I would be terrified, even if it is this big.
I did go back and watch the movie, and the baby Saphira is cute.
Oh my god, I kind of want a baby Saphira plushie. I am not ashamed to admit that.
Yeah, the baby Saphira is really cute. I remember becoming so frustrated with Saphira. She has the personality of a middle school girl.
Very angry middle school girl.
I don't know. She had... I think in the end she was probably one of my favorite characters in the book. Because, okay, speaking back to Tolkien, who was it? Jessica Williamson, who just was rereading Lord of the Rings and said there was only 6 female characters in the whole series. Well, at least in Eragon, there's a few more important named female characters. But
I feel
it's
like we don't get the important ones till the end, though. Like Arya and Nasuada.
I have
They
a
don't show
funny...
up until the last, like, quarter of the book.
I have a funny note about Arya in my notes. I called her, what did I call her? Passed out dream girl.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it bothered me so much that when they were like, they're taking her shirt off so they could like see all of her cuts and like heal her and stuff, and they still kept commenting on how beautiful she was and like all this stuff, and it just made me so uncomfortable. Like, what are you
so
doing?
creepy. Everything with Arya was so creepy to me. It very much felt like, oh yes, a nerdy teenage boy wrote this.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also wrote in my notes, I don't know if you guys picked up this vibe, but when it kind of came to the dragon riding and dragon bonding, some of it felt, I don't know, like sexual. Like, I don't know, like when he talked about his experience riding Saphira, one quote he said, like, everything about me was hard. I was like, what the? What? I wrote that down in my notes, the exact quote somewhere. I was like, oh my gosh.
The like even like the very first like I guess fine, I'll ride this dragon, and then they do that weird like mental bonding where they become one thing, and then they start using theys, and I'm just my brain kind of got boggled by that. I had to read those like 3 paragraphs twice just to be like, wait, what are you trying to tell me right now?
Yeah,
It was so awkward.
That scene left me feeling very much like, I don't know, like embarrassed. Just because, again, like I knew he's like a nerdy teenage boy. I felt like I would be embarrassed if I wrote that and put it out there as a teenager. Just, I don't know, just sort of sexual inexperience. It was kind of coming off of that to me. Same again with the Arya passed out dream girl plot. Oh, I don't know. That's
Also,
where.
The moments where Saphira like gets jealous about Eragon talking to like Arya and other people felt really strange. Because I'm like, she's a dragon, and like at parts she's like pushed as like this motherly kind of figure to him, and like they're supposed to be like this partnership, but like it went a little too far at times.
Yep.
Okay, I'm glad I
feel
wasn't
that.
the only one who felt that.
It's like, no,
She
the dragon is
so
not your
boring
girlfriend.
and has no character. She has her moments, and in the end, it took me a long time to warm up to Saphira. Also, I ended up liking Braum, not at the beginning when he was just info dump machine, but when he did that, with like right before he got the horses or whatever, he bribed the guy. No, he stole from the guy, like Robin Hooded him.
He tricked him, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote that in
was
my notes.
dope.
Like, I wrote like, okay, that was an awesome moment. I like Braum now. So there needed to be more character moments like that.
But also, actually, Bron quite annoyed me the way they treated his strength, because I felt like that was also used a bit as a plot device. Like, sometimes he was really strong, and sometimes he was a weak, frail old man who couldn't use magic properly anymore.
That's a good point. Yeah, Braum was just, yeah. To be fair, I was fully 18 before I learned the difference between a rock and a bear. That explains a lot, Michael.
Yeah, but there's definitely a lot of character confusion. It's like this is the type of character I'm creating. Okay, but they also are this too. Like but you can't have, but that's A and B.
Well, that's
I'm
why I was
confused.
surprised when Braum died, because I, was kind of in my head thinking of him as the Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, he's gonna stay around to like the final battle. Like, I don't know, not the final battle, but he's gonna stay around longer. And I don't know, it just seemed like his death seemed very anticlimactic to me. And a lot of times with Braum, I kept writing in my notes like, oh, I know all this other information, but I can't tell you right now because,
Reasons.
plot reasons.
Yep.
And
then when he died,
the
he,
announcement
like-
on his deathbed. Oh, I hated that. It's such a cliche.
He,
the
like,
mental dying and
downloaded-
revealing this big thing. Oh.
And then he gives
Yep.
his knowledge to Saphira, and Saphira's like, I can't tell you also because plot reasons. I was like,
Honestly,
Saphira, what the heck?
there's this one part that bugged me so much where they're in oh frack. It's the second city they go to. Not the one that was ganked, but
Tiram, or is that what it's called? The Sea City?
I want to say it's the Denet. Is that what it is?
Dros Leona?
No, not that far yet. I will openly admit, I was gonna write it down and I forgot. But it's like they're talking to the guys that they get ambushed and like, well, what are you doing here? We're just looking for supplies. Okay, cool. We're gonna get them for you. Okay, cool. And then Braum immediately kind of sits there and kind of shadedly gives Eragon crap for not reading this guy's mind, this Trevor guy.
Oh,
And it's like,
yeah.
oh yeah, no, I can do that. So I can do that. Why can't you? It's like, but if you're not supposed to tell him this information, which he says, I'm not supposed to tell you about this whole mind reading thing. It's like, but then why you're literally just bringing it up for the readers. And it's very uncomfortable. And that whole sequence bothered me so much.
You gotta close the window once.
Okay. Their whole relationship doesn't have spark. The dragon, its rider, as far as I've read. Yeah, I really thought there was going to be more of a connection and bond between them. And also, like, between me, the reader, and both Eragon and Saphira, I really thought I was going to be rooting for them. And, I don't know, I just didn't feel connected to either of the characters. Well, Eragon, I never really felt connected to him, even to the end. Saphira, I came around to. And Anya didn't see the sexual thing, honestly. Good for you, Anya, lucky.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until you mentioned it, and now I can't unsee it.
Yeah. No,
I didn't see it until they became one entity. I'm like, there's only one reason you use that sentence, and I
It was
understand.
just some of the phrasing was just a little off.
yeah, so weird. Oh yeah, here is it. Everything about me is turning hard. I think he meant physically and mentally, but Christopher,
Yeah.
that line.
It's like those words strung together don't mean what you think they mean here.
Yeah. Oh. Is there any other cliches we wanted to talk about?
The fact that he's this like dumb little farm boy, and then anytime he's taught something, he's instantly a master at it. It happens when he learns to read, and when he's learning sword fighting and magic, like everything. He's just instantly a master at it. And like we have this whole book, and we still don't see the progress of him learning. He just suddenly knows it. And like you have all of these pages, all of these words to use, and you don't devote any of that to his learning.
Yeah. Well, it's like when he used Brissinger the first time. It's just like, this whole thing is happening. I'm just gonna shout this word. Ha! And then he gets Bron wants the explanation. He goes, yeah, I just did it.
Yeah, it's really true. That really bothered me too with the language. Like, this is supposed to be really hard, and he picked it up so easy. He remembered so many of the words. I was like, what? From like an illiterate farm boy? How like that would be hard for me to remember. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like a 30-year-old like bilingual woman. Like, what the hell? Also, which editor let that line go? It wasn't like, oh, sweetie, no. That's what I'm saying. What was the edit? What was the editorial process like on this book? I am so curious.
Like, my son is such a good writer. We're just gonna let this happen. Here you go.
Yeah, it said that his parents were the first ones to read it. So did they not have a problem with Passed Out Dream Girl? Because
If my parents were to do that, they'd be like, rewrite it.
What was the next? Language, dialogue, and purple prose. Purple prose was one of the things that I had heard about it right when I Googled it. Was that a lot of people said, oh, it has very, flowery language. What are your guys' opinions on this?
It bothered me. It bothered me so much in places. I'm just, like I said in the last stream, I'm like, stymied. Stymied just seems like such a weird word when you could, the sentence structure kind of wasn't quite fit. It didn't fit, and it bothered me. And very, very heavy thesaurus use. I have to look up the words. It takes me out of the story.
Marta, how did you feel? Because I know, Marta, you said that it was one of the first novels you read in English.
Yeah, I honestly, like the word you just mentioned, like I don't remember reading that. I think I was just skimming the purple prose. So when I reread it this time round, like the first couple of chapters, it really bothered me and it made me feel a bit cringy about it because I said that I really loved this book and I was like, oh, yikes, this is not as good as I remember. But then like after chapter 3, I got used to it and I stopped noticing it.
Unpopular opinion. I really like the language, but that's also because that's kind of how I write. But like, I will admit there were certain times where I'm like, okay, just get to the point. But for the most part, the dialogue is a different story. But like, the rest of the text, I like descriptions and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. The purple prose also didn't bother me. I actually really like. I like the visual descriptions. I thought the imagery was really beautiful. I could imagine the landscape very well in the book. I really actually liked that. The only problem I had with the purple prose was it was in such contrast to the dialogue. It made the bad dialogue stick out even worse, in my opinion.
The dialogue is an entirely different animal. I think the dialogue made me struggle more than, because a lot of the visual description words were great, aside from weird random use word a, but the dialogue is just like I'm gonna need to skip you. I hope I'm not missing anything, because you're not people. Be over here.
Oh, the dialogue was bad. Yeah, the editor wasn't touching that hard one. Yeah, yikes. Maybe his editor was also young. We don't know. Again, guys, it was like 2001. Well, it was first indie published in 2002, so it would have been edited in 2001. It was a different time. We have to take that into account, and the fact that I think Christoper Paolini had a little bit of virtuoso wonder kid aspect to him writing such a novel like this at that age.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of people were just inflating his ego and maybe not pointing out some of those things to him because of his age. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't want to crush that young writer spirit.
One thing I had written about the dialogue was it seemed like a lot of times characters would answer questions that weren't asked yet. Like, this and this is taken care of already, conveniently off page, but the reader and Eragon have not had time to ask those questions yet. Like, the person he just randomly talks to would just, I don't know, it just felt very weird. Like, this kind of off-page convenience. All that hard world-building stuff is taken care of, all the logistics. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And that seemed to happen a lot. A lot.
There's a couple of different dialogue options where it's like you're going to talk about the weather and then you're going to talk about something that's completely unrelated in the same sentence, where you're like, wait, weren't we talking about the weather a second ago? How are we talking about the geopolitical nature of something else? I'm using words because I can't think of the part in the book that really got me. But
yeah, I had that a note about in the beginning when Brahm talks about the Razak. He's just explaining the term to Eragon for the first time, and then Eragon turns around and uses it just like he knows all about them and their history. I was like, what? You just learned about them 2 seconds ago. What? What?
Yeah.
yeah, there's no transitions in the dialogue. It's suddenly we're gonna stop all the action, have this weird conversation where the people don't sound like actual humans, and then cut it off and then go back to the action.
Yep.
Yeah, it was actually, I think, my least favorite part of the whole book was the dialogue. I can let the sort of cliches and fantasy tropes, all that, I can let that slide, because I think it's kind of cool to have sort of a young adult Tolkien-esque fantasy for kids. I actually think that's awesome. So I can let some of those things go, but that dialogue, man, ugh. Especially in contrast to the purple prose. If you're at the reading level to read, that sort of intricate, beautiful imagery in the prose, then the dialogue should rise to meet it at a certain level. Or at least explain a little bit more about the characters, because we all kind of said, okay, some of the characters we never bonded with. And that one moment with Brahm where he tricked the guy at the bridge or whatever. It's more moments like that would have went such a long way in this story. Or the moments where him and Saphira would talk behind Brahm's back. Those little moments were great. And again, edit could have done so much for this with those kind of things. What is our next category? Oh, just themes and motifs and symbols. Do we want to... Did you guys have anything that you thought about as motifs or symbols? Because I had a few.
I got caught mostly on the dialogue and the tropes and stuff more than the motifs and the themes.
The two sort of things that I saw as sort of reoccurring was the color blue seemed to be a big motif, as well as the concept of names. sort of the importance of names. Those are the two big ones that I kind of pulled out of this.
Names and legacy.
Yeah.
Because like the whole series is the inheritance cycle, and inheritance is the name of the fourth book, and there's a whole lot of like little lines here and there where you're reminded like this whole thing isn't just about Eragon, it's about him and everything that came before him.
Yes, yeah, definitely. This weaving of the past and the present, and history repeating itself. I mean, we talked about Eragon being named after the original Eragon, and Saphira being named after previous Saphiras. Monday, Eragon learns to spell calculus Thursday. Eragon gives his first lecture in calculus. That is very accurate.
Yep.
I think that pretty much sums up Eragon. He is, just like Christoper Paolini, he is a wonder kid. So
I'm also still annoyed that he defeated Brom with his left hand. That makes me so mad.
yeah, I didn't think about it until you pointed it out, Marta, but I think Brom did kind of get the short end of the stick sometimes in the story. Like, yeah, sometimes he's portrayed as weak and sometimes as strong, and he could have been so much more as a character, I think, and his death seemed anticlimactic to me.
Yeah. It's like I always thought that that Brom was maybe faking being a weak old guy just to kind of make life easier or harder for Eragon, I guess would be the better way of phrasing it. Because it's like, yeah, no, I know things, but I'm not really good at anything because I'm just so old. But I don't know, maybe I'm just reading into it.
I feel like again, like I said before, I feel like so many of the characters, like big characters, didn't get introduced until the second half in the book. So it's like, Urtog, like, he's a cool character, actually, but I just didn't have enough time to get to know him. But I think, I'm assuming in the series he becomes more of a yeah, okay, Marta's nodding her head. Because I really liked him. I liked the idea of sort of
He's my favorite.
What's the sort of archetype that I'm looking for here? Sort of dark past with a heart of gold. I don't know.
The anti-hero?
Yeah, kind of anti-hero type of a character.
See, I wrote down that he's the Sasuke of this book, but if you don't know Naruto, you're not gonna know what that means. But like,
I get it and I agree.
yeah,
It's a similar archetype.
yeah, he's just like the emo boy, kind of annoying at times, and how whiny he is about how tragic his past is. But like, he's pretty cool as a character too.
Yeah, see, I'm a sucker also for this archetype. I like these type of characters, so I just feel like we didn't get enough of him. So it would have been cool to see more of that character. I mean, I don't want to go huge into the movie, but Arya in the movie like infuriated me like so much. I hated her in that movie. She was just the whole time like pumping up Eragon's ego. It was like,
you're important. You're in charge. They'll follow you wherever you go.
They're
You're
already
so
singing
important.
legends about you. Like, you're already, like, I was like, oh my god, shut up, girl.
Like, how long have you had this dragon? Stop.
I had the biggest crush on him.
Oh, same.
Same.
Just a little. Yeah.
I thought about that also when I was watching the movie, like, the guy who played Eragon, I was like, I bet at the time a lot of girls had a crush on him. But I don't even remember that. Oh, Caitlin also. I guess everybody did. I don't know why I didn't see this movie. I think I would have liked it. Yeah, it came out. When did the movie come out? I didn't look that up. I only looked out when the book came out. But I think I would have totally been into this series if I would have picked it up, because I was into Star Wars and I was into Lord of the Rings. So I don't know why I missed out on this one.
2006.
2006. I would have been a freshman in high school, so.
I totally watched it because it had a dragon. I'm like, yay, dragon movies.
He is Han Solo, and you can't convince me otherwise. Oh, he's the Han Solo. Okay, thank you for translating it for me. I don't know in Star Wars though if Han was my guy. I think I was more of a Leia. I don't know. I feel like I ran out of discussion topics to talk about.
I can talk about stuff. Okay. So I'm really big on alchemy and like the themes and motifs involved in that, and there was so much in this book, and that made me so happy. So like, basically, the the major thing with alchemy is that there's three stages from bringing this like darker lead material to gold, and like that represents the character is the person like becoming they're turning into gold throughout the series. But then like each book also like follows that step, and this one like I don't think I've read any books other than Harry Potter that like did the alchemy thing purposefully, but this book does it so well, even though I'm pretty sure it wasn't supposed to be that way. But basically, you start off in the Negrito, which is the dark stage where you get a lot of heat, you get a lot of black and gray when you're talking about like colors, and there's a lot of pain and trouble. And there's certainly a lot of that in this book as a whole, because this is like, if you look at the series as a whole, that's what this book is that stage. But then also just the beginning of this book, you get a lot of that. And then the second stage is the albedo, which is white, so you get a lot of white and silver. Things are generally lighter. And I feel like when we first get to Tyrm, the way that city is described was a crystal clear moment for me. Like, yeah, that's what part of this book we're in now. We're into Act 2. We're into the stage where Eragon is, like, becoming more sure of himself. He's learning more about what his situation is. And then you get to the Rubido, which is the stage of perfection, and everything is red, which you get a lot of because the whole last act of the book is everyone fighting and there's blood, and then which is the whole thing was just like I was having a real good time picking all of this stuff out because it's like what I know the best. It's what I study in college, and just it made me real happy to find all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool observation. I didn't think of it like that. That actually reminded me of something, though, that I wrote in my notes about blue as a color, that the dragons were breathing the color fire that they were the color of. That I forgot. I had that in my notes somewhere. Again, I don't know. And also, I just thought about, again, back to, like, bringing it back to Star Wars, about Saphira being blue. For some reason, I thought about, like, how when Luke at the beginning of Star Wars first has his dad's old lightsaber is the blue lightsaber, and then later in the series gets the green lightsaber, and I was like, I don't know, I just took that as a note. I'm not sure if it means anything. I don't think I'm going to continue with the series, but I did write that down. As a whole, though, this book did very much feel like a setup to the series, because I felt like when I got to the last page, I was like, okay, this story isn't done. I don't feel, it didn't feel like one story. It definitely feels like, okay, this is just a stepping stone to go further. So, Arya is Leia. Not my Leia. Marta, Han Solo, sidekicks, same personality. Don't fight for the main side. Both ride the best vehicles. Creature in the universe. Both rescue a princess. Both fail to kill the villain. Literally the same person.
I mean, that's archetypes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's true. If you would line up the archetype chart, which I'm sure somebody has made one, because I know there's Harry Potter, Star Wars ones, Lord of the Rings ones that where they line up all the series. I'm sure. Yep, I've done for Eragon.
What is with young male protagonists being raised by like their uncles and their aunts? It's in everything.
Right? No, there's no there's no good, like, solid parental family units. Like, nobody has a mom, nobody has a dad, everybody's dead, you know.
Always the uncle.
Always the uncle.
Eragon definitely had a YA orphan syndrome, big time. But he didn't seem to have too much baggage from that, like, compared to, like, Harry Potter, who is constantly, like, reminding you that he's an orphan and his parents are gone. Like, Eragon didn't really dwell on it a lot, it seemed like.
Yeah. He mentioned
you
it
get that later in the series.
Oh, okay, it's coming.
There's a whole lot of parental baggage coming up.
Okay, I was wondering where that was.
Yeah, I was curious about that too, because it's like, yeah, it mentions it once, like, I kind of feel sad about my parental issues, I'm never going to bring it up again. It's fine.
Yeah, it seemed like they just brought it up in the beginning to let you know how he was related to Uncle and Roran, his cousin, just to let you understand the dynamic that was going on, and then didn't really mention it that much again. I was like, oh, okay.
Nope, it comes back, and it comes back big.
Oh, goody.
I did read somewhere when I was doing the research that Roran comes back as an important character. I did read that, but I don't know how. So
Cool.
I actually
vanished.
I actually haven't been spoiled on what happens in the rest of the series, but I do have some predictions, and there was definitely some things like Angela's prophecy. She gives a prophecy, and I was definitely wondering about that and thinking, okay, this is going to be relevant in later books, perhaps. And also, what was up with that werecat?
Solomon? I
Yeah,
think he's hilarious. He reminds me of the cat from Coraline.
yeah. I was not expecting like a werecat. I was like, where did this come from? I didn't know. I thought this was a book about dragons. Werecats? This is pretty cool.
I'm glad that we got other like fantasy creatures and it's not just dragons.
I agree. I thought that was kind of a cool thing. But like I said before, just the telepathy, I am such a sucker for that. Like, I was like, ooh, this is cool.
Yep.
I feel like the first and second book, if edited and cut well, could be one book, and it would feel like less setup. Yeah, I think definitely this book could have been condensed down. I forgot. I was going to Google what the word count is on this.
73,000.
Oh, okay.
I googled it. No, not 73. 173,000.
Okay, I was
Say on my
wondering.
page.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
googled it
Googled-
yesterday because I'm like,
Because I looked up Cirque du Freak, which is only 50,000, and I was going to be like, hey guys, Cirque du Freak's only 50,000, so it's not that much to read, and I was going to then compare it to Eragon, but I forgot.
173,000.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so, wow, whoa. Dang. I could go into that more, but I don't want to spoil anything. Well, that's actually, like, when we get to, like, Hunger Games, like, I have always had my dream, like, how I would fix the Hunger Games series. So, like, Caitlin, if you have an idea how you would fix Eragon, I would love to see a video on that. Just putting it out there.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd watch it.
Yeah, that... Joss Stone's casting as Angela and Eragon was the worst casting decision in history. Oh yeah, I kind of don't even remember that part in the film.
I didn't remember Angela being in the film for some reason.
It was just this one really quick scene. Blink, can you miss it? Yeah, I think because the movie was trying to be a capsulated story. Well, I mean, it never got picked up, right? They only did the first movie. They never
I
finished
think
the
they wanted
franchise.
to though. It felt like, well, from my memory of it from like 15 years ago, it felt like they wanted to continue it, but I could be completely wrong. So
Yeah, I was gonna do research on that too, but again, another thing I dropped the ball on. Oh, yes, I'm so here for fixing the Hunger Games. Yeah, well, first, I just have to say, the Hunger Games, the first book is perfect. It's just the trilogy as a whole which is fixing. That's all I'm going to say on that, in my opinion. So,
The Hunger Games is another one of those ones that I've never read. And I only watched the first movie. So I'll be over here in my corner.
I don't remember reading them, but like, I have to have read them because I know the story.
yeah.
I have no memory of actually reading them. I just know what happens.
Well, that's why I wanted to save it for like a couple months into the book club that hopefully like we've established something, because this first month feels really like, I don't know what I'm doing. Again, no, what's that Bernie Sanders meme? I'm once again asking if anybody wants to help me organize this or has knowledge of setting up a Discord. Please help me. LOL, I actually have videos of me analyzing Eragon and Eldest. They're on private because they were the first few videos ever and I didn't know how to edit. The ums and ers. Oh, yeah. Oh, my first videos have so many.
Yep.
You should
Now you can
refilm
redo them, Caitlin.
Yeah, Caitlin, redo them with all. Agree. Yeah, I like that kind of content. I love when creators do those kind of content. I think that's what I was excited also about doing the book club was like, yeah, talking about things from like our perspective as writers. So, do we think today, in today's climate, a book like Eragon could get published?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe before Game of Thrones completely destroyed the dragon genre.
Yeah.
Because like before like that last season came out, dragons were still like really big in publishing, and so it might have been able to squeak through. But like since that ended, like no one wants dragons anymore.
I also feel like Eragon was published right before the golden age of YA, and it doesn't feel YA to today's YA standards.
It would definitely have to
Yeah.
have changed quite a bit in a
Yeah.
facelift or something.
Yeah, and I think to be like high fantasy is so competitive of a genre. If you don't have a little bit of special sauce in your premise, I think it's not going to sell. And just the fact of being sort of a general hero's journey isn't enough today.
Yeah, you gotta have that little bit of extra. It's like, oh god, here we go, another high fantasy
Self-published,
book.
yeah. Obviously, it could be self-published because his parents had the coin for that. Traditionally, not so much. Michael saying, interviewer, what did you think of the Hunger Games trilogy? Danny, I can't remember if we read it or didn't. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the thing about the ending of this book, it very much gave me Frozen 2 vibes. Have you guys seen Frozen 2?
Not yet.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what are you guys doing?
I have no Disney Plus.
Well, like Elsa hears like this voice, like oh, you know, and then she's like follows this random voices that she hears, and the end of Eragon where he's like, it gave me that vibe, like I'm going off on into the unknown. And I was like, actually, I think I wrote that in my notes, and I may have broken out in song completely and danced. Facelift, Eragon needed full skill.
Listen, I like Eragon. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I'll admit it's not the best, but it's definitely good beginner fantasy. Like if you were talking to someone and they're like, "Yeah, I've never really gotten into fantasy. Do you have any recommendations?" I feel like this is a good introduction to like common themes and tropes. But
Agreed,
like,
yeah.
it's not something that someone who is extremely well versed in fantasy would probably love.
I kind of have to agree with you, Danny, because if you hand somebody Fellowship of the Ring, like the prologue on that alone is enough to bore someone to death. Like, so if you actually want to get a kid into reading, and if a kid shows interest in high fantasy, Eragon's not a bad option.
Yeah.
I just think me as a 30-year-old woman was not the target audience.
Yeah, I definitely think it got me into reading a little bit because I did read it when I was 14. So like at the
Yeah.
time, I really, really enjoyed it, and now I think a lot of my enjoyment is mostly from nostalgia rather than from the book itself. But I like it.
The nostalgia factor it is a strong force. OMG, Game of Thrones destroyed the dragon genre. I never saw it like that, but it's so true. Yeah. That Game of Thrones, that's another high fantasy mega giant one, but I don't feel like 73K behold something would recommend anybody wanting to get into fantasy. Well, if they want to get into fantasy, they got to get used to those high word counts. Because
Yep.
there must be an easier way. Yeah, well, The Hobbit. I mean, The Hobbit is accessible. So
That's also like pretty chunky.
I don't know. I think
Hobbit's kind of
It's not as big, but like maybe I just have weird editions of books because mine seem to be so much longer than everyone else's.
Yep.
yeah. Well, I just found out because I have I don't know, Little Women, and mine copy is this big, and I've seen people have it this big. I was like, oh, it's multiple books that were bound into one, and I just have the first part. Took me a long time to realize that. I wonder what the today comp title for a high fantasy trilogy for a 12-year-old now that YA is so different. I think the thing is, I thought Eragon was middle grade, and I think today a story like that, you'd have to maybe tone down the purple prose and market it as middle grade.
it's definitely a middle grade vibe, but the language doesn't reflect it.
Yeah, and also I think some of the complex politics might be too much for a middle grade reader.
Yeah.
The Hobbit. Oh, he's petite. In my head, I was like, she's petite. They're petite. They're precious. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I just love Gollum Schmeagol so much. It's part of The Hobbit. I have like a bookmark on that page in The Hobbit. I just go back and read it for fun.
So we're gonna read The Hobbit at some point?
Oh God.
You know what? I thought about it. I mean, it is technically middle grade, but I don't know if people would be down for The Hobbit.
Yes,
'Cause
please.
I just, that's why I wanted it to be like nostalgia train, like books of the past, but I didn't want to be like, oh, golden era YA middle grade, because like some of these books are older. Like I don't want to, eliminate old books. I just didn't want too new of titles, so anything sort of post 2012, I think is too new maybe, unless we're talking about like continuation in a series that was started before. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm very much basing it off of my own age. Like, even when I was setting up Nostalgia Train, I was like, from our youth, I was like, we're all not the same age. But we're basing it on my millennial, 30-year-old youth. Yep. I am the standard for everybody. Yes. Is my favorite book. Yes, Stieg, we all know The Hobbit is your favorite book. The Hobbit is pre-2012. Yes, it qualifies. It qualifies. Interviewer, what did you think of Edmonton, Danny? Aren't we in Calgary? Interviewer writes in notebook. Okay, I think Michael's just like coming up with memes over here at Danny's expense.
It happens. It's fine. I'll take it.
I didn't really plan like a certain length of this. I mean, we're coming on the 1 hour mark. I don't know if there's any Eragon stuff we want to continue to talk about. Do we want to talk about the film? We've all seen the film, right?
I've seen it. I've seen the movie.
Yeah, but not for
A
a
very
long
long
time.
time ago, but yes.
Oh,
Maybe
I
a
watched
decade,
it.
I don't know.
I watched it last week. So.
I was getting ready to watch it like last night, and I look it up. And it's like Disney Plus or rent on YouTube. I'm like, I'm just gonna watch the trailers and the episode on CinemaSins.
Also,
The
yeah.
best I can do.
Yeah, I wanted to get into watching a lot of the sort of snarky YouTube adaptation stuff, but I didn't want to be spoiled, so I was really waiting until I finished. I mean, I finished Eragon a week ago. I had a whole week to do all this prep work, and I didn't do it. But to be fair, I was so burnt out of Eragon once I finished it. I was like, I can't look at you anymore. Like,
Yeah, I finished 2 weeks early and I still was like, I want to do research. I'm just gonna do it half an hour over the stream. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll probably, because like I said earlier, I haven't made it all the way through it yet because it was a struggle. But I still kind of want to finish it. I'd like to say that I did it, and it was finished by me.
To hear your thoughts on the ending, because to me the ending felt abrupt and like, oh, it's not done yet. Okay. Which it kind of, to be fair, kind of made me want to see. I mean, I'm definitely not committing to Eldest. I know that Danny and Marta wanted to continue on in the inheritance cycle. I will not continue on, but I will commit to like the first 3 chapters of Eldest. I'll give it a couple chapters, so just to see. I'll give it. I usually do that. Even a book I didn't like, I'll just check the sequel because maybe his writing style improved. I think Stieg has a book recommendation. Yeah, Stieg is just on the train for the Hunger Games and for sassy comments, so that everybody knows that. So we have to try to make him read Warrior Cats and Twilight. Oh gosh, no, honestly, like since starting this, I keep thinking about Twilight. Like it was one of the
You're gonna
books that
have to do it.
Yeah, it's one of the books that I feel like I founded the idea of the club on, but I'm like, I have so much nostalgia for that, and I know that it's trash.
Yep.
My only memory of reading Twilight is when I was on the bus to school in like 6th grade, and I borrowed it from my sister's friend, and I read the first chapter, and I'm like, nope, and I never touched it again.
Oh gosh, in high school, I was obsessed with that series so much. I mean, vampires on brand, and I didn't think Twilight was bad up until the movies came out, and then I'm like, wait, I don't know how I feel about this anymore. But when New Moon came out, I was going through a bad breakup, and I was one of those kids. It's like this is like my life right now, and I had so much trouble reading it. Looking back at it now, I'm going, "Oh, honey, you need to not."
So you don't have to answer, but can I ask how old you are? Like just a ballpark? Are you around my age?
I just turned 31 a few days ago.
Okay, so you're around my age. Okay, so we're in the same era of Twilight because I knew that you had also read Cirque du Freak. So,
Yep.
so that's kind of like that's going to be our next read, and that got me into vampires. So I was already into vampires, and Twilight came out, and I was right at that teenage hormone age that I was so into it.
Vampire romance, just give it to me. Put it in my brain.
And
It's
okay,
so
I don't want to
important.
go on a full Twilight rant, but like Bella, like that was like her only personality trait was like that she liked classic novels and was reading like the Bronte sisters and like Jane Austen and like like being like a reader, literary kid. I was like, this is totally cool. I read it in college and I read all 4 books. I must have enjoyed it. Yeah, Stieg. It's what got me back into reading after teenage. Stieg was too cool to read after 6 years. Yeah, that was the Hunger Games for me, and actually Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones books. Those were like the only books I read in my early 20s was Hunger Games and Game of Thrones. Does this train come from nostalgia or go to it? Writes in a notebook. That's a great question. I think it's on like a loop.
Yeah,
So
it
both?
just circles it.
Yeah. There's this. Do you guys watch Rick and Morty? Sorry, we're going off the rails now. We finished talking about.
That's fine. I'm here for
Eragon.
it.
There's like this one train episode of Rick and Morty that's like so meta about like Dan Harmon's plot embryo, story circle plotting method. If you go watch that episode, it's all about like story structure and meta jokes about writing. It's so good.
One of the,
Can't believe Katie's not here for the train talk.
Oh yeah. If Katie was here, we'd be like really getting into the literary elements. There's the interviewer watching the stream. Now, actually, I kind of feel scared now that you said that. I mean, Laura asked for horror recommendations in the Discord. I was like, oh, maybe the interviewer. An evil interviewer.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
They were never heard from again.
Oh, Anya has something. I am 41 and read all the Anne Rice books as a teenager. Interview with the Vampire, anyone? It is not YA though. I tried to read that when I was in college and I couldn't get through it.
I read that when I was 12, and I remember reading it in class, and my teacher was just like, "What are you reading?" I'm just like, "Don't ask. It's good. I'm having a good time." And then the movie, I love the movie.
Oh, the movie's
Yeah,
my
I've
absolute
seen the
favorite
movie,
thing
yeah.
ever. I have a minor confession, and this coming from the vampire nut like me, is I've never been able, like I've tried to read Queen of the Damned, I've tried to read Interview with the Vampire, and I've tried to read The Stat, and I've only been able to get halfway through each one. The only Anne Rice I've been able to read from start to finish is The Witching Hour.
Yeah, I tried to read Interview with a Vampire and I couldn't get into it. But I liked the movie.
The movie's like
I read that, and I read The Vampire Lestat, and in The Vampire Lestat, it just threw me for a loop because he, like, becomes a German pop star or something like that, and I'm just like, I don't know what we're getting into, I'm not continuing on with this.
Well, I picked up actually, now that I've been sort of playing around with my own vampire plot bunny, I picked up the audiobook for Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I was like, hey, this is actually pretty good. Like, I don't know, but as an audiobook, I don't know.
Did you see that there's a sequel, like an official sequel to that now?
Yes!
Really?
I saw
My
it in the
library
store,
has
and I'm
it.
like, wow.
what?
It's written by his, like, ancestor, his descendant.
Yeah, there's a Dracula spin-off. But also Dracula is in the public domain, so anybody can play around with him if they want. I'm okay, that sounded bad. You know what I meant.
How long's Dracula been in the public domain for?
I don't know. I just found it when I was researching
I don't know, it's
vampire
old.
stuff. I was down a deep vampire rabbit hole just to avoid writing. I think I went down a pretty big research rabbit hole, you guys.
Well, I just remember back when, before, when I was in high school doing all the stuff with the book that should not be named, originally my bad guy character was named Dracula, and my publisher's like, you can't do that, it's copyright. I'm like, okay.
It could be different though in different countries. I'm not
Possibly.
sure. Copyright laws.
See, I'm
Hold
writing
on.
dragons right now, so like Eragon was perfect timing for me.
Yes, I love that movie too. They did so good with Queen of the Damned. I don't think I've seen that movie.
I actually, unpopular opinion, I enjoyed Queen of the Damned. It was weird, and I was totally here for it.
I didn't read Interview, but I watched the movie so many freaking times. Yeah, I've seen the movie. It was good.
I watch it once a year.
Yes, The Witching Hour was great too. Aaliyah, Queen of the Damned. Yeah, I've seen the poster. I know the movie poster. But I haven't seen the film that I know of.
I think I need to watch more vampire stuff. I haven't heard of any of these titles.
Yeah, well, that's the
Highly
thing.
recommend it.
Vampires are having a resurgence. This is like the thing about like writing to the market. Like, if you have a vampire book now would be a good time to get it out. But like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm such a slow writer. I could never write to the market. That's like me, like with my witch story. I was like, yes, the witches are in right now. I was like, but Violet, by the time you finish writing, the witches are going to be out again. Yeah, okay. Yep. Time to give up.
Well, it's like vampires were like super in the early 2000s, and then they died off after Twilight was done, and now they're back in again, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm here for this. I got this.
I'm
Let's
here
go.
for it too. I'm totally here for a vampire resurgence.
This is gonna
Anya.
sound a little weird, but I feel like the next like 2, 3, 4 years are going to be like the biggest vampire boom ever because of COVID. Because vampires in the media are always like following like disease and everything. Like they always hit it big, and I'm telling you, we're just gonna get nothing but vampires.
I think you're right, because I think it goes in cycles. You know, witches died, and then vampires replaced witches, and then zombies replaced vampires, and I think the cycle might continue like that.
Like, I'm here for it.
Interview with the Vampire. Who was the interview? The interviewer. Oh, Michael and his interviewer. Another nostalgia suggestion: Vampire Academy. Ooh, it was published around the same time as Twilight.
That's another one on my list of I've watched the movie.
The thing about like everybody's giving such good recommendations, and it's like I read a lot. Like I read like 7 books a month, so I'll be like, okay, let's do this, let's do that. But like I know other people have like lives and jobs and actually are writing their books and working on things and don't want to commit to this stuff. Because even like Cirque du Freak, like yeah, it's so short. I was like, I could just binge the whole series. Like, but. Stieg, I saw it in German back in the day, and she had the worst accent. Maybe I should watch it in English. Yeah, you should. Every trope has a cycle. If you miss it, you have to wait a decade to bring it back. Yeah, if you have a good project, just shelve it. Shelve it and pull it out at the right moment. Yeah, that's... Yeah. I don't know. Do we want to keep talking about random stuff, or should we wrap up? I have no idea. Like, I have no plan for this stream.
I have time, but up to you guys.
Yeah, I'm good.
We could just talk, yeah, random nostalgia if we wanted to. I'm working on a vampire novel, actually, but it will take me at least 10 years to finish it. I have so many projects I'm working on right now. Oh, Anya, I feel this to my core. I have so many projects. I'm uninspired in all of them right now. I'm like, new projects. New is better.
But that's alright though, you can jump into the next boom of vampires in 10 years. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, you get right in on the trend. So, well, same like with dystopian. Dystopian is also dead. So, but is it going to come back? Because if vampires are coming back, dystopian should come back as well, right? That was also right after that time. Yeah. Because I know dystopian is sci-fi, but like one of my fantasies has sort of dystopian vibes. It's a fantasy world, but it has sort of dystopian vibes. But I definitely am not going to say that if I like would query it right now.
Yep.
Definitely would not. I would just say like a restrictive fantasy society.
Same actually, like I've got sort of kinda dystopian vibes, but I'm calling it like a post-war world instead, because that sounds better than dystopian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some dead genres and tropes you just... They can be there, but you gotta put a little bit of a,
Yep.
makeup on them, disguise them. Is there a Discord server for the train? I tried the link below, but it didn't work. Ah, gosh, okay. Yeah, actually, the link should be like in every description box of every video I've had since I did the announcement. Hopefully one of those links works. I will, after the stream, put a new one in this description. So, but like I said, I'm really Discord illiterate. I don't know what I'm doing. I just figured out how to do like roles. And there's still a bunch of stuff I don't know how to do. I'm afraid to actually press buttons and do things on there that I'm going to mess everything up. So I don't know who knows how to use Discord. Like I need somebody who knows how to use it to help me.
I don't. It's not me.
I'm just learning how to use it. I figured out a couple of buttons where I'm like, wait, I could do that this whole time? What? Cool.
Well, like now I'm like comfortable like being on Discord, like Sprinto and everything, those kind of things, but that's about my limit. Emojis, I still sometimes mess up like trying to emoji underneath people's comments. So if I ever leave weird stuff under people's comments, sorry. I'm excited for Dystopian 2.0. Yeah, I'm excited also, I think, because I think the same thing about like these dead genres. When they come back, they have to come back new with new spins and new dissections of tropes. So they won't come back the same.
I got a dystopian duology brewing in my mind, and I'm not afraid to call it dystopian because I'm self-publishing, so I can do whatever I want.
Oh, I didn't know that you were planning to self-publish.
I'm also self-publishing, but I'm still afraid to call it dystopia.
See, that's how you get away with it. It's like, oh, you can't say dystopian or you can't say vampires without everyone going, really? So you just self-publish and go, oh, it's already out. See?
But I think in self-publishing, dead genres never die.
Yeah.
Because
The
the
trends are
readers,
definitely different.
the ones who want them are going to go there because like I've seen good witch books and vampire books in self-publishing that have been coming out. Like they never stopped coming out, you know?
Yeah.
All that paranormal stuff, it never died. Yeah, I thought I had a permalink, Stieg. Okay, apparently I didn't. I think it was a copy-paste issue. Because I definitely just copy and paste the same description box. Unless you change the setting, the links only works. Yeah, I changed it to always work, but no. Okay, I'm doing my best. I told you guys, I warned you that I was going to be a mess, so.
Yeah. It's okay.
Are you guys planning to read Cirque du Freak now for June?
Yes.
If I can get my hands on it. I
I
don't
think
have
I've
a
learned my
library
lesson
in
now,
this
stop.
vicinity.
I think I'll start a little later this time, because I feel like I forgot Eragon already, because I finished it 2 weeks ago, but I will probably be reading it, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to also wait because it's so short. I think I'm going to finish it like in 1 or 2 sittings. Like,
Especially if we're only talking about the first one.
yeah, that's the thing is because I think a lot of people maybe haven't read it because like I don't know, when I brought it up in Discord, not a lot of people other than Crystal seemed excited about it. So I feel like we were the only like Cirque du Freak stands over here.
It's totally not for the fact I was planning on doing it like just as like a minor vlog for my like on my own channel, and then you're like, hey, nostalgia book club, Cirque du Freak. I'm like,
yeah, I was planning on rereading it anyways. Yeah, that's why
I
I like.
definitely read that one. The only thing I remember is the Snake Boy, though.
Oh, my favorite
Because
character.
I was actually in middle school when I read it. And
Okay,
that
I'm not.
was
I
10 years ago?
have a really embarrassing confession. I dressed up as Evervon Snake Boy for Halloween when I was in college.
See, Good.
No, continue. I wasn't going to say anything else. That was it. Just laughing at myself.
No, I totally because I still remember him, even like I haven't touched that book since I was at the age to read it, and he was still my absolute favorite character, more than Darren was.
He says sorry being helpful. I'm sure, Steve, likely story. Oh, I have to leave. Kids need to go to bed. It was great chatting. Thanks for the ride. Oh, bye, Anya.
Bye!
Okay, Caitlin, the movie, it's one of the worst adaptations ever. I was going to write this in the Discord. The movie is not the book.
Yeah,
Josh
no.
Hutcherson's in that, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think I
Oh,
saw like the trailer and decided not to watch it.
The casting all around is terrible. First of all, it's like Darren Shan, the author, is Irish. Like, it is a British Isles like book. Like, it's a British book. Like, it's not, or Irish. It's not an American book. Oh, the adaptation is so bad.
That
Changed story elements, the casting, everything. Oh, all around terrible.
I hated the. I keep wanting to say it's Will Ferrell because he looks so much like Will Ferrell, but it's not Will Ferrell, who played. God, why can't I remember his name? I remember freaking Everin and Darren. I can't remember.
Yeah.
The mentor, the vampire.
Creepsley, but I can't remember the actor's name either.
Yeah, the actor who played him, I'm like, that is not my Creepsley. That
Me
is
neither.
not
I
my
always
Creepsley.
imagine more like a Tom Hiddleston.
Yes. Yes.
So that would have been my fan cast.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to wrap up the stream. Closing thoughts on Eragon, introduction to Cirque du Freak. Yeah, Cirque du Freak is one of my favorites as a kid. Like, I loved it. I never finished the series because there's 12 books, and I think I aged out of it. Oh yeah, Steeg's got our back. John C. Reilly.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, oh, so bad. He's like a comedy actor in the serious role as a scary old vampire. Like, what?
Yeah,
What?
no. Tom Hiddleston, maybe Tom Ellis, the guy who plays the lead in Discovery of Witches. I don't know his name either, but those are my top 3.
Yeah, and I think they did like whitewashing also in the Cirque du Freak movie.
Yup.
The female love interest was black in the book and was very white in the movie.
Yep.
Yeah, that was not cool.
Nope.
Terrible movie. Would skip it. It was Amos in Chicago. I have never not seen him as. That's a good point. Oh, Chicago. I'm having a hard time sort of closing thoughts here, guys. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Cirque du Freak. I would highly recommend it to anybody. I have huge nostalgia. Like I said, it's only 50,000 words. A really quick read. Yeah. I was thinking if people like it, to get on board for the next ones, I would think about doing maybe 2 at a time for a series like that. That's very short. Also with some of the other middle grade ones. What was the middle grade that you recommended, Danny? Because I looked it up and that one also looked cool.
Oh, Ranger's Apprentice?
Yes, I also looked
that's
that
a long
up.
series, but the books are pretty short. Like, I think
Yeah.
the first book is only 200 pages.
Yeah, that I looked that up and I was like, okay, yeah, we should do this one too. But I'd never heard of it, so.
It's Australian.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's still very much like vaguely European fantasy world, but the guy's Australian, and it's my favorite book from when I was in middle school. My brother lent it to me because I had no more of my own to read, and I'm like, yep, this is going to be the book that defines my taste in reading for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's how I got Cirque du Freak. My older brother was reading it. So my other brother was reading Eragon, and I didn't want to read what he was reading because he spoiled all the Harry Potter books for me. So I didn't trust him.
Yeah, no, that's
He
fair.
did. Well, we're definitely not covering the HP books on the book club. I mean, obviously for obvious reasons. But he spoiled books 4, 5, and 6 for me. So, closing thoughts. Wait until you are at liberty to try and write a book. Agreed. But I mean, to be fair, he kind of, again, like I was saying, Lord of the Rings came out in 2001, Episode 1, Star Wars in 1999. This coming out in 2003, there was a whole young nerd culture rising, and he got it at the right moment, because kids were probably, young kids and teenagers, we were looking for fantasy at that time. I mean, I missed it because of my brother, but yeah. The Dragon Chronicles is a middle grade one that I remember fondly. Don't remember what it's about. Probably dragons.
Sounds familiar.
You would assume so.
I have not heard that one. There's so many that I haven't heard. Like, when I put the Request to Stop channel on the Discord, I was like surprised at all the suggestions. I was like, I never heard of half of these. And I did a lot of like research when I started the book club. I was like, let's just like research all these different middle grade things from around this time and YA stuff and the history of these genres. And yeah, I was even surprised by some. But that's what's cool about it, is to also see like the books that defined us and our writing styles and genres and tropes. And Victoria's Belt was another MG series. Never heard about this
Never heard
either.
of that.
Nope.
I know what did Katie say in one of the chats, that she had seen how Eragon had influenced her writing. So it's a shame that she wasn't here, because I would have liked to hear her opinion
Yeah.
on some of that, because I know she writes high fantasy. So
We'll just make her share all her thoughts in the Discord.
Yeah.
yes, or just leave a very chunky comment on the stream.
Right, Katie,
Yes.
where's your 5-page essay?
Yes, exactly. Yes, we know that you're graduated now and you have lots of spare time and you just are addicted to writing. So we'll be expecting it by the end of. This might be more elementary school, but I love Dolphin Tales. Never heard of that either.
Nope.
I think that's also a movie with Josh Hutcherson.
It's called Deltora Quest in English. Hey, did Cam Wolf do a video on Deltora Quest, because that sounds familiar. Maybe. I think I know what you're talking about, Stieg. Writing it down. I have a bunch of like in all my notebooks. Like I always call my notebook like a trash notebook. I just write all my ideas for everything. It's not organized at all. Those are my favorite. Yeah, I mean they're that's the thing also about like genre distinction, category distinction. Like we talked like YA versus middle grade, and then I don't know what it goes after, the chapter books, because there's also a bunch of like those kids early readers chapter books that I think, yeah, that I didn't really want to include, but there are definitely things there that I liked also growing up, but are maybe a little too childish, I guess would be the right word. Yep, somebody gets you, Anna. Yeah, Cam did a few videos. Okay, so Sasha knows what I'm talking about. I watched those videos. I had never heard of it until that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and, yeah, like I said, do outros. Did I have a banner? Oh, yeah. So we will, for June, be reading Cirque du Freak. I will fix the Discord link if anybody wants to join. I'm going to highly recommend Cirque du Freak, because I want to get people to read this book that I love.
Yep.
Yeah, Series of Unfortunate Events is one that we've talked about in the Discord as well. But that also has several books, right? I've never read it. I saw
13.
one of them. Okay, 13.
Wow.
Yep.
But they're also
That's
small
another
books,
series
right?
that's like, yeah, the first 12 are like pretty short, and then the last one is like normal length for a book.
Okay, then that's. I think with those long series that are really short books, I think that might be the way to go. Like have 1 month for the first book to introduce new readers, and then do them 2 at a time after that, perhaps. Because, yeah, it would take like 5 years if we wanted to read all these 12 book series.
So many books.
Yeah, so many books, so little time. So yeah, do you guys want to outroduce yourselves?
Sure.
Crystal? I'll start with you.
I'm Crystal. My channel's Crystal's Cluster, where I make writing content, D&D content, and gaming content. I'm currently writing a modern paranormal vampire fantasy, which is super fun. And, yeah, I do a lot of things.
Marta?
My name is Marta and I make art and writing related content, and I write fantasy mostly.
I'm Danny. My channel is somberhoney. I post videos every Friday about whatever I want to talk about for that video, and writing vlogs every other Tuesday. If you want mediocre content about whatever I can think of, then feel free to subscribe.
Don't sell yourself short here.
I'm not. I'm just being completely honest.
Yeah, I'm also going to be completely honest. Okay, I'm Violet. My channel is Writing Violet. I'm also Writing Violet on Instagram. We also have a Nostalgia Train book club Instagram as well that I'm trying to post on, trying to be a social media girl. Join our Discord when I get a new link for it if you want to come read young adult and middle grade books with us. I supposedly post twice a week, but I'm definitely not keeping that upload schedule, especially not for June. And yeah, thank you everybody who came along for this stop on the nostalgia train with Eragon. And yeah, if you want to stay up to date, follow the Instagram and join the Discord. And yeah, stick around for June. We will be also announcing another live discussion. And if you're good at Discord and want to join the book club, hit me up and I'll make you an administrator. That would be highly appreciated. You're all welcome. So thank you so much. And until next time, bye.
Bye.